Welcome back to the deep dive. Great to have you with us again. We often talk about finding liberation, freedom, but today we're looking at something that sounds almost opposite: surrender. Specifically, we want to really get into the nature of surrender. We're using Gita for Joyful Living, chapter 7, verse 15 as our guide. What does surrender actually mean here? It might challenge what you think about, giving up versus letting go.
That's right. And what's fascinating is how the text flips the script immediately. It's not about defeat, not about just throwing your hands up. It's asking us to see ourselves and the world very differently. Prepare for some unexpected ideas about how this text defines surrender and what it means for us today.
Okay, let's dive in. The text connects surrender to bhakti. Can you unpack that for us? What is bhakti and how does surrender relate?
Sure. So the text defines bhakti simply as love for God. But it's more than just, a feeling. It's this deep, unwavering devotion, a real commitment. And surrender, the text says it's complete and unconditional bhakti. But here's the really key point it makes right away. Surrender to God is not a physical act.
Not physical. Okay,
Yeah.
that's important. So it's not about bowing or giving things up externally.
Exactly. It's not about outward shows at all. It's something happening inside.
So if it's not something you do physically, what is it then? What's the core of this surrender, according to the source?
It's described as fundamentally a mental attitude, and this attitude, it arises from really understanding our own limitations, specifically our limits in freeing ourselves from what the Gita calls the illusion, or Maya. Maya
Yeah.
being this cosmic play that makes the temporary world seem like the only reality.
Right, getting caught up in that appearance.
Yes. And realizing we can't just untangle ourselves by sheer will alone. When you grasp that limitation, you also see God as the master of this illusion, the one behind it all. And that understanding naturally leads to this deep, unconditional love, bhakti. Practicing that love, Bhakti Yoga, that's what Lord Krishna calls surrender to God here. It's an internal shift.
Ah, okay. So for you, the listener, the big takeaway is moving from thinking about an outward action to an inner state. It's about seeing your place, your limits, and that leading to devotion, which I guess changes how you see success too. Let's talk about that. We all strive for goals, right? Name, fame, money, that kind of thing. And when we get them, we naturally think, I did that. We credit our hard work.
Oh, absolutely. That's such a common human thing, isn't it? The text acknowledges it. It says, when we succeed, we assume it's all down to our effort, our smarts, our persistence.
But here's where the Gita throws a curveball, right? It gives a different reason for success.
It really does. It offers quite a radical perspective. The text states the real reason for our success is actually God's grace.
God's grace. Wow. So what does that mean for our effort? Does it not matter?
No, it's not saying effort doesn't matter. Your effort is crucial. It's your part, your action, your karma. But the text is saying there's no direct one-to-one correlation between that effort and the result. The outcome isn't solely determined by your input. The ultimate success or failure that's attributed to divine grace, a bigger picture. I mean, the text argues, if effort always guaranteed results, perfectly predictably, well, where would God fit in? There'd be no need, logically speaking.
That really goes against the grain of how many of us think, especially about achievement and merit. How does the text back this up, this idea that effort doesn't always equal the outcome?
It points to things we see all the time, just common sense observations. It's pretty obvious, isn't it, that not every single effort we make leads to the result we expected or hoped for? Think about, has anyone ever found a perfect formula for success, one that works every single time, guaranteed?
No, of course not.
Right. And nobody can promise zero chance of failure either, no matter how hard they try or how careful they are. There's always that unpredictable element, something beyond our control, which naturally leads to the question, if effort isn't the only factor, what else is going on? What connects the two?
So we're always dealing with this variable, this unknown that our rational minds struggle with.
Exactly. We try to calculate everything, but there's always something that doesn't quite fit the rational model.
And the text uses a really great example to show this disconnect, doesn't it? The scientists and the space shuttle.
Yes, it's a very vivid picture. You have these brilliant scientists. They've done all the work, years of it, calculations, tests. They're sure everything is right. But then at the moment of takeoff, they're still watching anxiously, holding their breath, basically.
Yeah, you can imagine that.
And that anxiety, the text says, proves that even their certainty, built on immense effort, isn't absolute when it comes to the outcome. There's a gap, a mismatch between their effort and the result. And the text specifically says this gap cannot be understood by the rationale mind. It's beyond pure logic.
So this gap, this mismatch, it's been obvious throughout history. The text suggests we can all see it if we look, but still, many people don't acknowledge God's role or any higher power's role in this. What does the text call these individuals?
It identifies them as the atheists, not necessarily in the modern sense, perhaps, but those who believe they are solely in control. They think they shape everything just through their own effort and will. They attribute everything, success and failure, only to themselves. And because of this viewpoint, the text says they do not pray to God. They don't acknowledge that higher agency, and therefore they cannot progress in the path of Bhakti Yoga. Their whole framework prevents them from developing that trust and surrender.
Right, because they believe it's all them. So what happens, according to the text, when these individuals face failure, repeated failure, despite trying their best, but without that trust?
This is where the text describes some very serious potential consequences. It suggests that when someone relies only on their own effort and then faces major setbacks again and again, it can be devastating. Without a belief in grace or some larger plan, the failure can feel absolute, crushing, like the universe is just unfair or chaotic.
That sounds like a recipe for despair.
It can be. The text explicitly links this lack of trust to destructive behaviors. It mentions some take to drinking or drugs, and in the most extreme cases, it says some even resort to suicide.
Wow.
The text is quite direct. Such behavior is the result of not trusting God. It's presenting a lack of this surrender attitude as potentially leading to profound hopelessness when facing life's difficulties.
So for you listening, this really underscores the practical side of this. It's not just philosophy. This mental attitude of surrender, or the lack of it, can deeply affect how we handle life, our resilience, our ability to cope. Okay, so wrapping this up, this deep dive has shown surrender, in this context, isn't about weakness or physically giving up. It's an internal shift, isn't it? Recognizing our limits and controlling outcomes, trusting something bigger than our own effort, understanding where results truly come from. It's that mental stance of complete, unconditional bhakti love for God.
Exactly. It reframes how we look at control, how we define success. It asks us to see a deeper layer beneath the simple cause and effect we usually focus on. And maybe this leaves you, the listener, with a question to think about. How might really accepting this potential mismatch between your effort and the results? How might considering our role for grace or something beyond your will, how might that change how you pursue your goals and maybe even how you react when things inevitably don't go according to plan?
Lots to think about there. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it's given you some valuable perspectives to consider.